Hello everyone. I hope you are doing well and the world is not doing quite well. As of today in the morning, the news carried the sadness of the death of a lot of people because of the conflict in the Middle East. And whoever is right, whoever is wrong, at the end there is death. So for today, I thought maybe we can look at the aspect of this sense of power. Like, why does a mind, consciousness, okay, let's not use the word consciousness because it's been used in a lot of ways by a lot of philosophers. So, why does mind, the human mind, demands power? It doesn't just demand it, it loves it. If you would see the practical aspects of power in your neighborhood, in your country, in the at the political level, it is quite evident then that power is super desirable and demanded. In general, the mind wants self-protection. That's the central movement of the ego, self-protection, which is also termed as selfishness. It can be termed as selfishness because when it's a physical protection, that's one way, and then there is also the protection of the psychology, the protection of the psychological center, the me, the ego. So that is the very basic and general movement of the mind, that the mind is trying to protect itself. Now, to do that, the mind has caught up, or the mind has mixed itself into this game of power. Power is basically mind's security. It's mind's assertion that yes, I'm secure now because I can execute certain things. When you have power over others, then you can execute certain things on them, depending on how much power you have. If you have absolute power, like it was in the time of okay, I'm not able to pronounce the word, like it was in the times of when there were colonies in the world, the British colony, the French colony, then the countries which owned the colonies would have absolute power, and then they could kill anyone at any point of time, they could starve at anyone, they could do mass killings, they could do whatever, because they just were the owners of those lands or of those people. And it wasn't like a democratic ownership where you are supposed to be serving the people. It was more like ownership. Like it's my land and these people belong to me and I would do whatever I want. So they did whatever they wanted. So this feeling of I can do whatever I want is what is the sense of power, when you can fulfill your desire at its maximum flight, so as to say. The desire can fly anywhere and yet you can fulfill it. Then it means you're quite powerful, because then people are letting you do whatever you want. And why they are doing it? Because they are afraid of you. So this opens up another aspect of power, is that power also creates fear. The moment you have power over someone else, this other person would be afraid of you, because power is like a danger for the other. So you can see, you want power because you want to feel safe. That with power, you feel safe. But the moment you have power, people around you don't feel safe, because now they are afraid of you, because they are less powerful than you. So either they follow you, not either, most of the times they do follow you because you are more far powerful than them, or someone is more powerful than you, then you follow this person. And then that's how the pattern follows, but there's always a sense of fear inside the person who is less powerful. Okay? So the one who has power feels secure because of power, and the one who doesn't have power feels afraid because of that. Are we able to see this? So the moment power is created, it creates two sides already. One side is the safe side, where the one who has it feels safe. And then the other side is the unsafe side, where the entity which doesn't have it feels unsafe. Now, the entity who is feeling unsafe will naturally be prone to violence. Okay, it's a very animalistic tendency. Whenever you are threatened, you choose violence. Okay, so maybe the one who has less power will not be violent straight away. Maybe that person is following the more powerful nicely, but they're always waiting for the right time, for the right moment to come, when they can be violent and take the power away from the more powerful. Okay? So now we see that the one who has power, who wanted power because he or she wanted to feel secure, got the power, felt secure that yes, now I'm powerful. But now he has another fear, that what if someone takes the power away? Okay? So power is created. The one who has it feels secure. The one who doesn't have it feels insecure, unsafe. But slowly and slowly, the one who was feeling safe also starts to feel a fear of losing the power. That what if I lose this power? Because I'm feeling safe with this power, and what if I lose it? Now, because of that fear, this entity who has the power would start to become more violent, because they would want to make sure that the fear which they have installed into the less powerful remains. Okay? And to do that, to remind the less powerful that don't try to take my power away, they would be more violent on them just to control them better. Okay? And because now the less powerful people who are getting oppressed by the more powerful people, slowly and slowly they become more and more angry because they already had less power, and now because of the fear of losing the power, this person feels unstable who already has power. He or she is already now pressuring more pressure on these people who don't have power. So the people who don't have power feels like a sense of unfairness, and the sense of anger becomes more and more and more, and it starts to become a system which wants to explode at any moment. In this kind of scenarios, you could have then the rebel groups forming up, the people who start to go against the power. They start to form small groups, and then the powerful people will call these groups as terrorists or unlawful or whatever. But the reason these groups exist is because of the powerful, because the fear of the powerful, these groups exist at the first place. As we see now, the chain is going on. Okay, so we want power because we want to feel safe. But the moment I get power, I get that sense of security, the people around me starts to feel unsafe. Okay, because now I have power and they don't have it. So they start to feel unsafe because they know that I can do something and get away with it, right? So they start to develop a fear. In that fear, now they feel like they should take the power from me because I have it. And now they want to feel safe as well, so they want to do that. But before they do that, I already sensed, yes, that these people would want to take my power away from me. So I oppress them more, create more fear. And this fear results into more and more oppression, a feeling of unjust, and then a feeling of anger inside these people who have less power. And this anger then develops a hatred which could last for hundreds of years, centuries. So what we see from this example is that power is not solving a problem. Power is actually creating a lot of problems. If I wouldn't have got the power at the first place, all of this wouldn't have started. If all the people remain at the same power level, then they wouldn't feel afraid of each other in the sense of power. Okay, let's remove, I'm not including other factors. Of course, there are hundreds and thousands of other factors, but just we are keeping the problem quite simple here. So the sense of power, the need of power, and then power itself is creating this big commotion, so as to say, a big problem of division between people. One with the power, one without the power. With the power, feel afraid. Without the power, feel afraid. With the power, feel safe for some time, then starts to feel afraid. What if I lose it? Without the power, already feel afraid that anything can happen to us. So, at the end, power feels like an illusion. It feels like as if having the power will solve our problems. But it creates its own set of new problems. And those new problems are probably more dangerous problems, because those problems include very strong emotions of hatred, emotions of anger, emotions of unfairness. So the mind does not see this cycle. The mind only focuses on the pleasure of getting the power. That yes, I should get the power. And after getting the power, I will feel the pleasure of being powerful, being able to control the other. That's the pleasure of the mind. But the mind totally neglects all the great problems that arise from the birth of power. Now the question arises, why the mind demands power in the first place, right? Why the mind was not satisfied without power? Why it started to demand power at the very first place? In the beginning of our discussion, we already said that the power gives a sense of security to the mind. The mind feels a bit safe because it has power over others. Now, that already gives us a hint that maybe because the mind feels safe after having the power, it means it was feeling unsafe at the first place. The mind was feeling unsafe, and because of that, it starts to look for a sense of safety, a sense of security. And the idea of power seems to provide that security to the mind. Okay? The mind observes the world, and the world is like a jungle. Anything can happen to you at any point of time. There is no guarantee here. And being scared of all that, the mind questions, is there some security somewhere? Like, why is it like this? That just I cannot trust anything. And in that sense of uncertainty, in that sense of not being able to get an answer, the mind starts to grope for things which it can. So it starts to desire a lot of things. Okay, it thinks, okay, what if I get a lot of money? Then I will feel safe. What if I get a lot of people to love me? Then I will feel safe. What if I have a big army? I will feel safe. What if I have whatever, all the features you are already aware of. But to feel safe, the mind really tries to put all that effort. And in that effort, it eventually also runs towards the power. Because power comes naturally when you create inequality. Inequality is power, actually. Power and inequality are both the same thing. If one person has more money and one has less, it's already creation of power. It's not just creation of wealth. One is already more powerful than the other. And this division of unfairness, this division of more and less, creates a feeling of unjust inside the people who have less. And then those people start to ask questions, rebel, whatever. So, to feel secure, the mind finds the solution in division. This is the whole crux of the discussion now. That the mind feels secure, insecure, because it observes the world and it sees that everything is just taking birth and falling apart, which is the nature of the universe. Everything rises and falls, just like waves. And the mind is so scared of this fact. The mind is so not being able to accept this fact that the mind creates all kinds of securities around it, whether it's the security of making a family, security of making friends, security of having more money, a status, a name, and everything. So all those are mind's attempt to last longer, because the mind is afraid to vanish. Okay? Now, in those attempts, the problem is that the mind is always creating some kind of division. When the mind creates a family, the mind says, this is the family and this is not the family. Already there's a division. Okay? This is the circumference of my family. Out of that, it's not my family. Right? So, I feel for these people, I don't feel for those people. These people should survive, those people can die. Doesn't matter. So, in every attempt that the mind is executing there, the mind is creating division. Any kind of division, whether it's economical division, it's a division of power, it's a division of emotional division. Yes, my emotions are only up to this point and not for those. But the central point in division is that division will always create injustice. Someone will end up having more and someone will end up having less. If both get equal, then there is no division, then they are equal. Okay? But the whole point of division is that there is an unfairness, there's an unjust. And this unjust division creates its own problems, huge problems. But the mind is kind of not able to see this fact. The mind is not able to see that this division is basically dangerous. The division is totally and totally dangerous to itself and to other people. So, a feeling of insecurity leads to solutions giving rise to division, division giving rise to power, division giving rise to injustice, division giving rise to inequality. And all of this is because the mind is insecure. Right? And another indication that we learn from all this is that the reason the mind creates division, because it creates division in almost everything it does to get that security, is maybe, and this is the indication, and maybe that the mind is divided itself. Okay? The mind creates similar patterns as it already is. Right? Like in one kind of parents give birth to one kind of children. And we are not trying to say good or bad here, but we are just trying to say that similar genes are transferred. So you cannot expect the child to be totally different from the parents. The child genetically will contain the genes from the mother and the father. So that's what. So these parents create these children, and these children are not going to be fundamentally different from the parents. So in the same way, the patterns created by the mind are not going to be fundamentally different from the mind. So if I see that the mind is creating patterns of division, of up and down, higher, lower, good and bad, this and that, then it also tells me that maybe division is the nature of the mind, because the mind is creating similar things outside. So, why is the mind divided? Right? We knew the mind was feeling insecure, which is why it was running outside to feel secure by getting more power, by getting more money. But when we see how it gets that more power, more money, more family, this and that, we see it always follows a pattern of division. It divides. But then why it does that? Then we say maybe because its own nature is of division. That's why division is present in all its actions. When you're a thief, that property of being a thief is present in your life. You can see a thief living like a thief. You can see a cheap trickster living like a trickster. So, in the same way, if division is found everywhere in the actions of the mind, then maybe division is also found in the mind. Right? And then comes the point, why is the mind divided? Okay? That's also a big question. Why is the mind divided? I think we've done a few videos on this already. So maybe you can go and check those ones out. They would be by the name of fragmentation maybe. But yeah. But the mind is divided. And then another question that naturally arises is that division the reason for feeling insecure? The mind was running everywhere to feel secure because it was feeling insecure, right? But in every attempt it does to feel secure, we see it uses division. And then we learn that the mind is divided. But now I'm asking, maybe that is the reason why it already felt insecure. If it was not divided, it wouldn't feel insecure maybe. Because we see that everywhere in society where there is division, there is insecurity. When there is division of power, there is insecurity. There's division of money, there's insecurity. There's division of caste, there's insecurity. There's division of borders, there's insecurity. There's political divisions, insecurity. Economic division, every division has insecurity. So it's very much possible that if the mind is divided itself inside, then that very division is creating the insecurity. Okay? And that's why the mind is playing the trick that instead of solving that division inside of it, which will probably finish the feeling of, resolve the feeling of insecurity, it runs outside to grab stuff. To grab stuff, more and more stuff, creating more and more problems in the outer world. Environmental problem, economic problem, political problem, every kind of problems are created because of this running towards security. Every country claims to be that we want to be secure, we want our people to be secure, energy security, this security, that security, everything, right? All those statements show that they feel insecure. If someone is feeling secure, why would they say, I want more security? They already have security if they feel secure. Okay? So, the mind never questions its own division. The mind only runs by giving solutions which are divisive in its own nature. So, demanding power is a way of not looking at the real problem. What is the real problem? The mind's own division. Okay? Mind doesn't want to look at that. Okay? Why it doesn't want to look at that? That's also another different topic. Maybe next time we can take it, but it doesn't look at that. And instead of looking at that division, it keeps running after other things, creating more and more division everywhere, more and more problems everywhere. And the insecurity remains. Doesn't matter how much money you have gathered, how much people you've gathered around yourself or whatever, the insecurity inside of you, the emptiness inside of you remains, which still wants something. We don't see people dying at old age feeling satisfied. They are still desiring, yes, I need this, I need this, I need this. Right? So, question the division of the mind itself. Don't run behind power, don't run behind divisions, more divisions. First check why you want power. Okay? Power, money and everything are only beautiful in the right hands. In the wrong hands, they are very destructive. So, before you ask for it, before you say, yes, I want power, yes, I want money, ask yourself, are you the right person to have them? Are you going to do something good with that? Or are you going to protect yourself with it? which means hurt others, right? So then it's just the same cheap trick, like always. So I hope we have seen a little bit of logic in this, and I hope I was able to show you that fragmentation of the mind is a very important problem to resolve. It's a very important problem to resolve. Without that, all the external problems keep on arising. So observe this every day in your life, how you run behind things, how you create divisions every day. And see the fact that while doing all that, your mind is avoiding the biggest observation, and that is to observe its own division, to observe its own fragmentation. Let's try to meet again next week. And until then, practice.